Good afternoon, everyone. So we're going to start off today by talking about state symbols. Many of you may have already learned in your South Carolina state history class, and if you haven't, you will when you get to third grade. But many states have fun symbols to help you learn a little bit more about your state. So South Carolina has a state flag, and our state symbol is the palmetto tree. So we are called the Palmetto State. We have lots of other symbols, including symbols for butterflies and flowers and all sorts of fun things. So does anyone know or remember what the state reptile of South Carolina is? If you guessed the loggerhead sea turtle, you are correct. So the loggerhead sea turtle is one of 7 species of sea turtles that are found throughout the entire world. The loggerhead sea turtle is the most common species found in South Carolina, but there are also 4 other species that can be found on the coast. They're just not as likely. It's not as likely that you'll see them. Those would be the green sea turtle, the leatherback sea turtle, and the Kemp's Ridley turtle, which is the smallest of the 4. And those, if you were to see them, you would find them off the coast of South Carolina between April and November. So let's talk a little bit about what makes an animal a reptile. So to begin, they breathe air through their lungs, even though they spend a lot of time in water. Next, it's important to think about the way they look. Reptiles are all covered in scales, bony plates, or both. So take a minute and think about what you know about sea turtles or turtles in general. If you think about their skin, they don't have scales like fish do, but they do have scaly skin, and they have large bony plates that protect them called their shell. Next, it's important to remember that reptiles are cold-blooded. That means they can't control the temperature inside their body by themselves, and they must rely on their surroundings. So most sea turtles are found within the temperate regions of our oceans, meaning that they're found in the areas of the ocean that aren't too hot and aren't too cold, kind of in the middle somewhere. And last but not least, reptiles are all born on land. So what are some ways that sea turtles are different than other land turtles? First, start by looking at this image of the 7 species of sea turtles. Do you notice anything immediately that's different from a regular land turtle? The first thing I see is that sea turtles have flippers instead of legs. Sea turtles need flippers to help them swim through the strong currents of the ocean, but land turtles need legs because they are coming in and out of the water multiple times a day, so they need strong legs and with claws to help them grip onto things as they're coming in and out of the water. Next, sea turtles cannot pull their head and legs into their shells for protection like regular turtles can. And third, sea turtles spend their entire lives in the water, only surfacing to breathe air or to come lay their nest. So we're going to watch a short video about the life cycle of loggerhead sea turtles. While we're watching this, I want you to keep an eye out for a couple things. I want you to learn, if you don't know this word already, listen carefully to the word incubation and see if you can figure out what that might mean. I want you to notice that this is for many different sea turtles. This is an average. So we will talk about the specifics for loggerheads after this video. The timing for the incubation period is different for loggerheads than this video shows, and the timing of when females mature is different for loggerheads. So let's take a look.
The life cycle of a sea turtle begins when female sea turtles return to the shore to lay their eggs. They come between dusk and dawn, laying anywhere between 100 to 200 eggs per nest, and can lay several nests over the course of a season. The sea turtle eggs incubate in the sand for 45 to 50 days, depending on the species of turtle. During this time, the temperatures of the nest determine whether the hatchlings will be male or female. Hatching is an exhausting process for the baby turtles. After breaking out of their shells, they must dig their way out of their nest, then crawl to the safety of the ocean, all of which requires frequent breaks. For this reason, the safest time for hatchings to occur is at night, when predators are least likely to attack. The young sea turtles that survive hatching will travel around subtropical waters, searching for food. During this time, they must avoid attack from predators and run-ins with fishermen and their nets. It takes anywhere from 10 to 20 years for turtles to reach maturity, depending on the species. It is estimated that less than 10% of sea turtles that hatch will reach maturity and lay their eggs. Only the females will return to land once they are mature, usually going back to the same beach where they hatched, starting the cycle anew.
All right. So we're gonna move on, but I hope you guys noticed they talked about the incubation period of the eggs, the threats that are a lot of these sea turtles are facing, both hatchlings and adult turtles, and they also mentioned the maturity age of females. So, a little bit more about sea turtles. They, like I said earlier, they're the most abundant species of sea turtle in the entire world. Loggerheads are also the most common in South Carolina, but it's important to remember that they're the most common in the entire world. But they are still a threatened species, and they're protected under the Endangered Species Act. Loggerhead sea turtles can grow up to 3 feet long and can weigh up to 250 pounds. That's pretty big. That's a lot bigger than your average pond turtle. Loggerheads are opportunistic feeders, but they prefer meat from crabs, clams, and other invertebrates. Loggerhead sea turtles will eat, if they're hungry, they'll pretty much eat whatever passes by them. And one of their secondary foods is jellyfish. So this is something you should remember we'll talk about in a little bit, but what do you think would happen if a sea turtle was hungry and a plastic grocery bag happened to be in the ocean and was floating by it? Just think on that for a minute. So a little bit more about loggerhead sea turtles. Like the video mentioned, they return to the same beach that they hatched from to lay their own eggs. This is something that scientists have observed for many years happening, and it's a phenomenon that has been seen to only be common in sea turtles. I think this is really neat. So any sea turtles that have hatched from South Carolina beaches will come back once they're mature to lay their own nests at the same beach. So females will lay 3 to 5 nests over several weeks during the nesting season. The nesting season lasts through May through August. Females become mature around 12 to 13 years old. So earlier in the video it mentioned anywhere from 10 to 20. That's a big range, but loggerhead sea turtles mature earlier at the age of 12 or 13. Loggerhead sea turtles lay nests that have over 100 eggs in them. And the eggs have an incubation period of 53 to 68 days. So an incubation period means the amount of time the hatchlings are inside the egg from the moment the mother lays the nest until they hatch. So some of the threats to loggerheads for eggs and hatchlings that are either, in their eggs in the nest, or hatchlings that are on the shore walking back towards the ocean or nearby the shore. Some of the threats they have are light pollution. Baby sea turtles, or hatchlings, use the light of the moon to help guide them to the ocean. So if there's a lot of light around the beach at night, this can confuse the turtles and make it hard for them to find the ocean. They also have to worry about holes that are dug in the sand. Have you ever been to the beach and you wanted to make a sandcastle and then you decided to dig a large hole? Well, it's really important to cover these holes back up at the end of the day, because if a turtle nest hatches in the middle of the night and these turtles go towards that hole on their way to the ocean, they could fall in and get trapped, and they won't be able to survive and get out on their own. And other threats they face are predators. So eggs have predators like raccoons, snakes, coyotes that like to dig up nests and eat the eggs. And then once they're hatchlings, they have to worry about larger fish and especially birds like ospreys and eagles. For juvenile and adult loggerhead turtles, they have to worry about sharks. That is their main predator, because sharks are one of the few animals in the ocean that has strong enough jaws to actually eat a sea turtle. They also have to worry about commercial fishing. That includes long lines, gill nets, and trawlers. Many of the practices for commercial fishing are harmful to sea turtles. And then, like we mentioned earlier, they have to worry about pollution. Sea turtles, because they are opportunistic feeders and will pretty much eat anything if they're hungry, that includes trash that is in the ocean. So we have to be extra careful about what we're doing with our trash and making sure, if you're especially at the beach, make sure it gets in the proper place. Don't just let it stay on the beach or fly into the water. So let's do an experiment. You are part of the turtle crew. So imagine that you are walking along the beach with your turtle crew, and this morning you discovered 3 new turtle nests along Edisto Beach. Because the loggerhead sea turtle is the most common sea turtle in South Carolina by a lot, we're going to assume that these nests are all loggerhead turtle nests. So pretend today's date is May 27th. I want you to use what you know about the life cycle of loggerhead turtles and your experience using calendars. And I want you to think about what date you should come back with your turtle crew to start checking these nests for hatchlings every day until it hatches. So here's some calendars. Remember, we're going to pretend that today is May 27th. And I want you to use what you know about the incubation period of loggerhead sea turtles, and try to figure out when your turtle crew should start checking these nests again. So you have a couple options here. You can count by weeks, count 7 at a time. You can skip count. You can count 1 at a time. You can count 2 at a time. So take a few minutes and practice counting all the way to the lowest number of the incubation period, and then all the way through the highest number. So we know what window we need to be looking for these baby turtles to hatch. So if you counted correctly, you would have gotten to July 19th, 2020 would be 53 days away from today, May 27th. So from there, you will count all the way from 53 days until the end of the range, which is 68 days. So the window to find the hatchlings, the eggs hatching, would be from July 19th to August 3rd. So that's when you would need to come back with your turtle crew and start checking and making sure these turtles are able to get back to the ocean safely. So if you haven't already, take a few minutes to record these notes in your science journal. I want you to make sure you know how big loggerhead sea turtles can grow and how much they weigh. I want you to record the incubation period for loggerhead turtles. Make a note of where female loggerhead turtles nest, and then how many species of sea turtles were there in the world. Once you've done that, I want you to take a few minutes and brainstorm in your science journal about what are some of the ways that you think you can protect sea turtles personally, and what are some of the things that we can change in the world to protect sea turtles. And then, since everyone's at home right now, social distancing, there are a couple resources here for you that have some really fun facts about sea turtles. The South Carolina Aquarium is offering virtual tours of their aquarium 2 different times every day. And this morning they had a great one about a green sea turtle. And then the Whitney Laboratory Sea Turtle Hospital through the University of Florida has a great website where you can learn about a lot of their sea turtles that they are helping. Thanks, guys.